Good afternoon, everyone, and we welcome you to Cinderella Slippers. My God, what a great feast week, and what a way to start off this Tuesday, November 26th, 2024. 2 days until Thanksgiving, and we already got another barn burner that was happening with Colorado as they upset the number 2 ranked Yukon Huskies 73-72 in Maui. Whoa! Whoa! What a finish! What a finish, folks! What a finish to that game. We have had some amazing games so far in Maui. 3 of the best games so far in this whole college basketball season, besides the great game at Charleston. This has to be one of the best Maui tournaments so far, recent memory, because Bill Walton and everyone in that community needed this. I believe they all needed this in some form or another. Everyone at ESPN needed this to grieve. Everyone at Honolulu, Hawaii wanted this. And Maui wanted to basically get back to action and get their lives back in order again after the big time fire that happened last year. Wow, folks. What a series, what a game that was. Just what a freaking tournament so far. Last night you had North Carolina down at the edge of the throat, basically with one more chance to live, and they finally got a chance to win, and they finally beat Dayton 92-90 last night. And then Auburn with a big time buzzer beater in their matchup. And then, of course, the best game of the day, probably. UConn, Liam McWhite guy, as they call him on Pat McAfee. They literally began the game off strung. And then all of a sudden, it got very close against Memphis. And Memphis shocked the world and beat UConn. Maybe that's not surprising. Even today it might not be surprising, because these two teams were considered underdogs in the tournament last season. Colorado made it to the tournament, and Memphis, I think, made it to the tournament. But what a series right now in Maui. We welcome you, everyone, to the first Cinderella Slippers podcast on Feast Week, folks. Let's go! Woo! Feast Week, we got a lot to talk about, baby. We got a lot to talk about. Got a lot of good energy going. Woo, I really love this podcast. Love this podcast so much. Want to bring back the energy that once was not there. Talk about a great slate of college basketball games. You know how on Christmas all you want to do is watch the NBA? And you know all you want to do on a typical Saturday is watch college football? This is up there with that. Great games. Even better games coming up. Look at the slate of these games that are on right now, folks. That are on right freaking now. It's insane what's going on in the world of college basketball. Tonight, you have the UConn UConn lost, but Houston and Alabama will play against each other. Yep, the Alabama, ranked number 9, and Houston, ranked number 6, are both in the were both made it to the NCAA tournament last year, have an opportunity to play against each other, and they will play tonight at 8 p.m. Iowa State and Dayton play in Maui later on tonight at 8:30. That should be on ESPNU. If for any of you wondering about the college football playoffs, that is tonight at 8 on the ESPN. So that's the reason why it's not going to be on there. And then probably, besides that, you have Auburn ranked number 4 and North Carolina ranked number 12 playing in Las Vegas. But the biggest game of the night, probably a classic, again in Vegas, will be, actually no, Auburn UNC is going to be at Maui. But tonight, the big game is Duke and Kansas. Point blank period. Might be a classic, might be a great game. Do not underestimate the heart of that game. Kansas and Duke will go at it in Vegas tonight at 9 p.m. immediately after the college football playoffs. And if you live on the West Coast, That is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Kansas and Duke are back at it again with it might probably be one of the best games of the year. So that's going to be on ESPN tonight. And then tomorrow, we got some more tournament action with the start of another tournament going on near the Bahamas. Indiana will play against Louisville in the first game of what will be an epic tournament, I think. And then Texas A&M and Creighton have a great game going on tomorrow night. But I will also say, after that, Alabama plays Rutgers in a more regular season type game if they lose tonight. But I'm just saying that it's amazing. It's awesome. And I do want to give you guys some other scores throughout the day before we can really dive into what we're really going to talk about. Texas A&M currently is leading Oregon 32-29 in the second half with 19:32 left. And then earlier today in the top 25, we had Creighton and San Diego State, and they went at it earlier today on TNT. San Diego State beat Creighton 71-53. That's not a surprise if you actually consider how they were last season. And San Diego State, to me, is always one of those teams that always has to do something really crazy to get into the NCAA tournament later on in the year. But yeah, it's been, to be honest, you just gotta sit back, relax, and enjoy all this. I mean, it's been awesome. I will say it's been awesome. And I'm more than excited to see my Indiana Hoosiers maybe get ranked, maybe not be ranked. We don't know. So, excuse me, there's a lot of anticipation. But the big thing I wanted to talk about, especially in this episode today, is basically I wanted to really get on the topic of women's basketball because I apologize for not posting a podcast last Thursday. I was wrapping up stuff with the finals week that I'll have in college, and a lot of other things are going on in terms of school. And we're wrapping that up. And in 2 weeks, you will be hearing from me basically saying that I am a graduate of my university for the first time, and a college graduate for the first time in my family in a long time. So a lot of stuff's going to be really good as we go into the Christmas weekend and then on to 2025, which I hope can be a way better year than this year. But I wanted to really talk about today about not just women's basketball. We'll start with that, and then we'll go into more of the men's action. In terms of women's basketball, especially this year, it's been, to be honest, kind of lackluster. We had some great games, we had some off games, a lot of blowouts, but in reality, big storylines I missed last week, and the biggest one being that Gino Archimeta broke the all-time record for wins in college basketball. That is huge. Round of applause to you. That's probably the biggest news that comes out of Division I college basketball for the majority of this sport, because there is not much else to say that has been memorable except for the fact that UCLA has been doing really well. And I missed on this point last week. Big upsets at Indiana. IU has been doing terrible so far. Terrible. It's not their fault. They don't have the same tools, and we kind of expected them to be kind of lackluster, but we thought they'd be better. I even had them as national championship predictions. I don't even think I came out with my national championship predictions on this pod, but I do know that with the national championship, I had the great IU winning the national title. That shows chances are slimming down and down and down because Harvard beat the crap out of them at home. Out of my school, they beat us at home. But then we lose 3 other games, a big time blowout against North Carolina and the Bahamas yesterday, where we lost 69-39. And then that has been, to me, the offense is clicking, but the defense is still very, very off for IU. There's a lot of problems with that team. They just don't have depth. They don't have the size advantage they did last year. Garcelon's great. She's a good center, and I would say Sydney Parrish can really dominate the year and break some all-time scoring records in the Big Ten. But other than that, I just don't have the confidence necessary for me to think that Indiana is going to be the top team in the Big Ten this year. I know that sounds crazy, but I know that IU, we've seen some great teams under Terry Morin in the last 7 years. We won the WNIT in 2017-18. We went off from there. We just tore through the NCAA, went to the Elite Eight in 2020. Then we went to the Sweet 16 in 2021, third round 2022, third round again in 2023. And then in 2024, last year, we lose in heartbreaking fashion to South Carolina. So it's been a long time coming that we have a team that's, yeah, they're young. Just consider it. They're young. Sydney Parrish will leave. And I thought because of the dynamic duos that we've had in the last several years, you remember Mackenzie Holmes, Grace Berger, Ali Patberg, Cardano Hillary, and then you got Mackenzie Holmes again, this time with Sydney Parrish and Sarah Scalia, Yarden Garzon. Some of them are good players, but a lot of the players I mentioned that have now left the program and have done bigger and better things with their lives have ended up becoming more of an IU is not the school where you want to go to make a dominant career out of things. And I'm not saying to make a dominant career in women's basketball. I'm saying to make a dominant career. I think you'll make more of a dominant career in the community. And I just doubt that Mackenzie Holmes is going to really take in the advantage and go to the Seattle Storm and do a great job over there and play for them. Her ACL injury, if you look at her recovery time, I have seen some ACL injuries in my time. 1 to 2 years can be the time frame for this recovery, and they might want nothing to do with her. And she's already a manager over there at IU, but I think she'd be a great assistant coach. She does not fit the Seattle Storm pride or team very well, and she's loved Indiana so much that is what we've trained these college basketball players to do now at IU, and that is to become better influences in the community. You're not there to get much of an advantage unless you're in the NBA or unless you're Grace Berger. She's not even getting much play time for the Fever, but that's for another story. Indiana lacks in size and lacks in depth. They don't have that front court action they did last year, and from what I can tell, their defense is so lackluster. They're more of a great offensive team. And Chloe Moore McNeil, of all people, in my opinion, who hasn't played very well in her IU career, at times she has, at times she hasn't, at times she's off, at times she's on, at times she's here, at times she's there, but she's never fully there at times. And I can say that the big problem with IU, especially this year, has been and probably will be their lack of depth in the backcourt. It's been a mess. And I can tell you that IU, they lost to Harvard this way. They lost to North Carolina because of their lack of depth. Mackenzie Holmes, all she did was basically help them on the perimeter, which to me has become somewhat of a major issue if you actually do try talking about how different things in college basketball have aligned, especially in the women's game. There was a little delay between 5:20 when I recorded this podcast and 9:08. There was just trying to help my family, just trying to get some Thanksgiving stuff in, and so basically I was just trying to help with that. It's currently 9:08, and if you hear the background, it's completely changed. We were watching Duke and Kansas, but yes, some other games that are going on currently right now as one of the games have gone final so far. Michigan State and Memphis went final. Memphis won that one and are going to advance to the Maui Invitational title, and so that's probably the big news. And then currently Kansas is leading Duke 7-3. And what game I think will be the game of this year and probably the game of the season might not even be close to the UConn game against Memphis, which I think so far has taken the top spot of game of the year. But no, back to women's basketball real quick. There's another big storyline happening in college basketball, and that one has to be the LSU Tigers. Now, LSU lacks depth, and so does South Carolina. I think they both have an opportunity to play against each other in the SEC title, but so far in the season, they have been playing really well. They've played really good so far, and there's no complaints on them. The team right now that I love right now is North Carolina. North Carolina and their basketball game right now, offensively, is one of the best in the ACC and the best in all of women's college basketball. So, personally, I believe South Carolina has an amazing or North Carolina, my bad, is meant to have an amazing opportunity this year, a good opportunity to get ahead, to actually revamp their program a little bit, and really do a good job in the women's basketball realms, as they have been a historic team in the past. A lot of the top 25 games have gone final in the women's. Talk about a major upset. South Dakota State and Oregon. South Dakota State, now they could literally run the table. They're a really good ball club this year. Really good. And I'm not kidding around when I'm saying that South Dakota State could make it to the NCAA tournament at year's end. Oregon loses again, which is their second loss so far. South Dakota State had 16.6 rebounds and 4 assists, whereas Haley Timmer had 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 0 assists, which, of course, is decent compared to what we're seeing right now in games like Nebraska, which are completely blowing out Kansas City 52-27. But that does it for all the scoring updates. Let's get to Feast Week. Let's talk a little bit about Feast Week, as I want to actually, first of all, get a word from our sponsor before I even talk about it. So here is a word from our sponsor on Amazon Prime or Amazon Music, and we are hoping that you can help subscribe to that and actually listen to the album that's coming out pretty soon on December 1st. We'll have a Christmas album as well, which will be huge. But, of course, here is today's sponsor by Amazon Music.
This video or podcast is sponsored by Amazon Music. Thousands of podcasts and shows are made every day, from the conversations of Joe Rogan to the crimes of Morbid, and music by 50 Cent and Sabrina Carpenter. Amazon Music has the right taste in music, podcasts, and shows for you. With a growing audience of 52.5 million people using Amazon Music every day, you can help in a contributing way to benefit this new version of what was once called radio. With thousands of music and podcasts to listen to, you can listen to our podcast too, keeping things in the middle. And with you signing up, listening to one of our episodes on your app or on your computer, you can help my podcast grow to become an ever-expanding podcast group and become a new member of our listening on Amazon Music. Please use our offer down in the description below, and it would help me a lot, because it would help me earn a little bit of money. Amazon Music, the site where you need to go to listen to podcasts, stories, and music that may have you bopping the whole night through. Now, let's get to the show.